partnership. This person makes me feel good.
Well, that's the thing. If you're going having sex in the woods, that's obviously not intimate sex. I'm talking about like real connected sex.
It's a different thing altogether. That really only happens with partners.
Right.
And partnership takes time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn to dance the tango together? It takes time.
Right.
You're going to learn to have a conversation and not be triggered? It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn to really open up and be trusting in sex? It takes time.
Yeah.
Josh is pretty grumpy about my little bunk beds.
Yeah, he is.
He doesn't understand why, but he is.
Because he probably feels like he wanted to build the beds.
He didn't want to.
You built them. Yes, he did. He talked about it last month.
He told me specifically he didn't want to build them.
No, he's talked about it, but he maybe told you he didn't want to. But he's talked about them.
He said he thought about it, but he didn't want to because he didn't want everybody to have them. That's what he said.
He didn't want people to have beds?
He didn't want everybody to have one.
That doesn't even make sense.
Because it uses a lot of materials. And having beds for everybody isn't as valuable as having a shed.
Right, so this is the I think he was prioritizing what he thought, but I know down the line he was looking at making beds because he talked about it last month.
I understand. Yeah, he'd mentioned
So that's why he feels like you cut in front of him to get that job done.
Not entirely true.
Really? Because that's kind of what it sounded like when he was talking about it in there.
That was the smallest part of it.
Yeah.
I just did a Robin Hood move. Just like I did a Robin Hood move here in the garden. That's his treasure. That's his stuff.
Right.
I invaded his territory and shared. I took the gold. I gave it to the poor. He's the masculine. He's not alpha, but he's a masculine man. It's his job to support the feminine. What's he doing instead?
Supporting the masculine.
He's supporting the masculine, keeping it for himself. What's the feminine's job?
To share.
I just made a nice bunk for those girls. It'd be nice if they made me some dinner or nurtured some plants or did something in exchange. I don't expect that because they don't value the feminine. They want to be masculine. They want to get shit done. You know, at some point, I'd like to have a talk about the masculine and the feminine and supporting each other instead of fighting each other. It's not that place yet. Right now, I can just use my masculine to support.
Which females do you feel like are being masculine?
Everyone but you, and you're struggling with it.
I know. I was thinking about it. Like, for example, it felt really nice to make dinner. I made lunch for you and Amanda. And in my mind, I'm like, it would be nice to make lunch for everyone. The fact that this is mine, this is yours.
Feminine.
Right. So it's struggling because I feel like I'm not in an environment that allows me to be feminine.
I understand, honey.
Right. That's like literally, I feel like.
I told you, I create the space. You fill the space with love. His priority, getting shit done so he can show him. I know that he wants to have a TV show. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, no, so that was interesting.
Yes. It's totally fine.
I was actually thinking when I was working the land, I was like, why am I doing this? This feels like a man's job.
I should till the soil.
The hoeing.
You used to be planting. That's how
Yeah,
it works.
no, I agree, and I didn't even like the hoeing part, but I said that I would help, and that's what you gave me to do.
I give you other things too.
I did those other things though already, which reminds me, I should go check on the plants.
Also, I just checked on them 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
And the sun's going down. It's not like right now.
I checked on them.
I want you to learn how soil feels like. Even though it's not exactly what you should be doing, I'd like you to at least...
So I know it's good soil and bad soil.
So you can feel it and it's in your hand. Like I'm digging on a hillside and all of a sudden I get to the bottom. I'm like, whoa, this is not the same soil. I want you to feel the earth and interact with it and then have
I
it
was
in your
thinking that
fingers.
too, like me just crumbling up the pieces,
That's
still
what I'm
giving
saying.
it love to where it's going to be.
So that you have a feeling with it. That's why I wanted you to do that. You don't have to do it every day.
No, I know.
Let me
That's
dig.
why I still did it. I don't care. I'm just saying, like, when I was doing it, I was like, this feels like a man's
It's
job.
a man's work.
Yeah.
You know, man destroys. He's about death. woman about life. Here, everyone's about death and construction and beating each other up. And out there, too.
Do you think that it's okay to eat the fish when the pond was chemically treated where we weren't even able to swim in it?
Yeah. I mean, it's never okay to eat catfish unless you know they're like... I mean, there's no pure enough water source in this country that I'd want to eat catfish in general. But I think people eat Big Macs, they eat hot dogs. Like, I try to eat 10% of my diet, whatever I can, so that I can actually interact with this culture if I need to. Because if I didn't stop by and get a Wendy's burger every now and then, and I ate this food, I mean, I'm running low on this food.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I haven't had fast food in like...
Yeah, but if I don't eat it regularly, I can't take it.
Well, I think that's why I can't take it. Because
Exactly.
I didn't prepare myself to come here.
I love your honesty.
Oh my God.
Love your honesty.
It was really bad. I just didn't... I don't know what I expect. I guess I just cleansed my body so much, and then I came here and it was like, shock. Even like in the... during sequester, I like had them going to Whole Foods and like I was eating like wild caught salmon and like
I wouldn't eat wild caught salmon, just for the record.
You wouldn't?
No way. They've now made it. FDA has denied any pregnant woman from eating tuna and salmon now. At all.
I'm not pregnant.
If they're denied,
still
there's
a
so much
childbearing
mercury in it that a pregnant woman can't even eat any. That's a bad
So what
sign.
fish would you even recommend?
I recommend herring.
Herring is the only one?
Only one that I recommend from the ocean.
I mean, I wouldn't want to eat farm raised either with all the
I
crap
wouldn't want to
in
eat
it.
farm raised, no way. Herring
So
is the only
now
one.
that's it. Herring's the only
Herring.
one left.
I
What do you
wouldn't
think
eat
about
anything else.
duck?
I think if you raise them yourself, great.
Otherwise, no.
Wild ducks, there's no meat on them at all. I mean, they're meant to fly. We raise ducks ourselves, and they are delicious. I love them.
When I was in, you know what's something weird? Like when the chick got hurt, I was like, why is the chick up here? It should be with the... And then they called the vets, and the vets said something like they're not like bonding animals, which I totally disagree with, because when I was in the Amazon, literally the chicks were following the mom duck around everywhere.
Yeah, there'd be 6 of them in a row. following them around.
Exactly. So when they said that, I was like, I
They
don't know.
mean they can survive under a light without their mom. That's what they mean.
But wouldn't they do better if they were next to their mom?
That's what I say.
Yeah.
But this culture doesn't value that. If they did, there would never be feedlots. And quality of life isn't important. Can you survive is what's important. Have you read the continuum
quality
concept?
of life. I feel like people have told me about this. I don't know if it's because I say things from it. You're not the first person who've said that to
I'll
me.
order that next, I think. Assuming I get the ones I ordered already.
I don't get people. It's like quality of life over survival. That goes back to the end of life issue that we talked about.
Refresh my memory.
Well, I think it was last week during church when somehow Jeff got brought up, or maybe it was 2 weeks. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And like
lay down if you don't mind. I'm not being rude. I just,
yeah, it's fine.
my back is sore.
And Jeff got brought up, and it's like this idea that, like when I was working in the hospital, it was so difficult to have end of life discussions because everyone wants everything done, and it's like, you're old, you've lived a full life. Like, why am I going to press on your heart? Like, if it's your time to go, it's your time. Like, why do you want to like prolong this like life and then have poor quality life because your ribs are all going to be broken and your internal organs are going to be smashed? Like, and I just don't. It's like quality over quantity. And I know my grandfather, he had like this scare possibly of like having cancer or something. And, you know, I really believe he's well now. But there was this idea where he didn't want to necessarily have chemo or radiation or any of those things. Let's say if he had been positive, but then there was like this push to have him get all this stuff done. And like everyone in the family was like upset because he really just didn't want to go through all that. But it like wasn't accepted because it's like you have to live forever, you know?
Yes.
And so even though he's my grandfather, it's like one of those things where
It comes back to story
I'd rather
we tell.
him be happy and not what?
It comes back to stories. The stories we tell about our lives and what it means. I'd take it back to the story of the adolescent too. You're valuable when you're young, and as you get older, you deteriorate and everything sucks. But if you grow and become an adult and become an elder,
you're wise.
there's no wise elders, but you could be.
No, but I mean, like like I feel like
In
I
tribal cultures.
look at my grandfather as a wise elder. Like he knows what's up. He's a poet, and he just he knows what's going on in the world. You know, it's so beautiful to talk to him.
It's easy for me to see if you know it or not. I'll just insult you and see how you take it.
Right, and he's one of those, like, always keeps his cool.
Yeah.
He's not an angry man at all. He's a beautiful person.
My grandpa is too, but he's not wise. I mean, he's like wise in his rigid way, you know, but he can't get under his skin.
I don't know, like my grandfather, like he'll say all these things about Jesus Christ and all this stuff, but I'm like, Grandpa, stop. And then we get into the real talk, and then I realize, like, that's just what he says because that's what he was raised to say. But when we've had a heart to heart, it's like he understands how the universe works. And it was like so beautiful to hear that he understands.
My grandpa hates that he can't get a lot accomplished anymore. You know, he can't hardly run a chainsaw. He can't get. He's like, I'm worthless. I don't have any strength.
My grandmother's like that. His spouse, she's like that. Where he's like, peace and happiness.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's like so laid back. She'll sit there and attack him, and he's just like, it's so interesting how he is not reactive. It's really interesting, actually. I've actually never seen my grandfather mad. And keep in mind, years ago, he was like an alcoholic, cheated on my grandmother, like, was that? He's like, I want to hear his whole story, and he's yet to tell me. Like, I want to write kind of like a novel based on true events, because I don't want to have to do the fact check and make it like a biography or not, you know. But they both have really interesting stories coming from Colombia, and he's like, you don't want to know. He's like, you're going to be like, Grandpa, that's you? Like, he can't admit that he wasn't always the man he is today.
Of course.
And that's really beautiful. Like, he's awesome.